I don't think you watch Fox News. I heard Ted Cruz say that the Iranians are going to nuke LA.
Well, as of right now, they don't have a nuclear bomb. One interesting thing is Iran has not developed missiles that go beyond a certain range. Doesn't mean they can't, but they have been hesitant to up until this point because they don't want to be seen as threatening countries outside their region.
So why is Ted Cruz saying they're going to nuke LA?
I think, and again, I've been a big Ted Cruz fan over the years. I've come to, respect him on many levels. I think he is repeating a talking point that, to help raise the level in people's minds, the level of threat that Iran actually imposed. Let's in
order to justify American regime involvement in regime change.
Correct. Let's be honest. Iran has been a bad actor in the Middle East. They have been a major sponsor of terrorism, indisputably. But I believe their economy is the size of Pennsylvania. Saudi Arabia alone spends 4 times what they do on defense. They're bordered by Pakistan that has a nuclear weapon, and they have pretty decent relationship right now. But over the years, there's been tension because Pakistan's Sunni, Iran Shia. You have Israel with a very capable nuclear triad and very capable army. So they're surrounded by countries in the region that have historical antagonisms with them. And they simply right now do not possess the capability to hit the United States with conventional weapons. What they do, and this is something we've talked about and need to be concerned about, is they do have the ability to infiltrate terrorists in other countries. That is a risk. That is something we need to take into account, but is not existential like the threat posed by China with what is quickly emerging as the biggest navy in the world with hundreds of nuclear weapons, including intercontinental ballistic missiles against the United States. China that could shut off a significant amount of trade and economic activity to the United States and harm us in significant ways. Iran is simply not an existential threat in the same way that China is, and even Russia is with 6,000 nuclear weapons.
So why are we so focused on Iran?
There are a lot of reasons.
But they can't be strictly limited to our national interest, given what you just said. Again,
it goes back to, first and foremost, and I know people want to talk about a whole host of other things, but really the thing that is driving this the most, and our focus on Iran and the Middle East as a whole, is that too many of our policymakers still believe in the idea that America needs to be not simply the most powerful country in the world, but the most dominant power in the world, that we need to have dominance in a way that we are able to impose our values on other parts of the world that have rejected them, mainly liberalism, that we need to use our dominance to achieve liberal hegemony. And that leads us into conflict with countries in regions that really shouldn't matter as much to us as they should. And we do have some interest in the Middle East, to be clear, and I can walk through those. But the countries that just don't pose the type of threat that a lot of people in Washington hype them up.
Wouldn't it be easier if you're the Iranian government just to observe Pride Month in Tehran and just get this over with? And then there's no threat of an attack, right?
Well, as Brett Stevens told my friend Sohrab Ahmari, he wants to ultimately see the 82nd Airborne in the streets of Tehran, escorting a gay pride parade. And that kind of sums that up.
Brett Stevens said that?
Yeah.
Man, I've known a lot of people in 56 years. I don't know I've ever met anybody weirder and dumber than Brett Stevens, but that's just me.
I actually, this is going to sound weird.
Yeah.
I respect him because he just says it out loud. He says, yeah, I want the United States to be the most dominant power in the world to spread liberal values. I want the United States to pursue
Stevens not even from this country. I mean, it's like getting a lecture about America from Brett Stevens is like... I'm pretty sure he's from Mexico, but whatever.
He is?
Yeah, he's from Mexico.
I didn't know that. But again, in a weird way, I obviously find his views abhorrent. I mean, he's said absolutely fundamentally racist things about Arabs and other people. He's got a weird obsession with genetics, but he's honest. He doesn't try to like wrap it in this cloak of American interests and American values. He just comes out and says it. And again, in a weird way, I kind of appreciate that.
So Roe v. Wade was overturned 3 years ago and people celebrated, but the battle over abortion is not over. In fact, did you know that abortions are at a 10-year high? In a lot of ways, it's the saddest thing that happens in this country. The birth rate falls and the killing of children accelerates. It's awful. Preborn is fighting this trend. They're expanding their life-affirming care in the darkest corners of the country to help women and save babies. Now, the abortion mafia don't want women to think about what they are carrying. They want them to think that ending the pregnancy will solve all of their problems, but that is not true. 11% of women who take the abortion pill, for example, go on to suffer serious health consequences. And that does not include the emotional and moral consequences. It's bad. It's ending a life. So when you give to Preborn, you are not just saving a baby, you're saving a mother too. Preborn has already rescued over 350,000 babies. There are still many, many more who need help. Dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby to support their cause. That's pound 250 baby. Go to preborn.com/Tucker, preborn.com/Tucker, because children are the greatest gift, period. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess that's where the being an idiot kind of plays into it. He just kind of says it out loud.
Isn't it funny essentially that I think you have 3 or 4 New York Times op-ed writers that believe exactly what he believes. I mean, David Brooks, David French, him, Tom Friedman's kind of evolving. I don't even know where Tom Friedman is these days, but essentially they
Bethesda.
Yeah. They hold the same views. The supposed, left-wing paper, and there's some, look, they've, credit New York Times, sometimes they do have some good stuff on their op-ed pages, but that you essentially have 4 op-ed columnists that believe essentially the same thing. They just express it differently. Like David French would never be that. David French would be the guy that masks it and like, this is what's good for America and America.
But they're all violence worshipers, David French especially. And there is a kind of like weak man compensates through promoting killing in other parts of the world. It's like, this sort of same weird cuck syndrome they all have. No, it is though. It is. I mean, you don't have to be Sigmund Freud to see like David French is like a psychosexual thing that's going on here.
They're
so handsome. Those.
I mean, I will say this with David is,
I'm a much bigger dick than you are, and I'm sorry. You're such a nice person.
Well, you bring up certain people, I will be a dick. I think David, he's so interesting because he brought away such a much different, and I know there's people that, mocked his military service. I'm not going to do that. But he brought away like a much different understanding of his service in Iraq than a lot of other people. And I've just kind of found that fascinating. And I think in a lot of ways, his views are really increasingly, the way he talks about foreign policy, I think he's more of a barometer of where the center of the Democrat Party is than the dying neoconservative fringe of the Republican Party is. He is representing increasingly where the Democrat Party is, not the Republican Party on foreign policy.
Interesting.
And we brought this up last time. Remember, the Democrat Party platform in 2020 was more hawkish on Iran. They did a 180 in 2024. They did a 180 from where they were in 2020 on Iran in 2024. And it was more hawkish. And there's a world where you could have had Liz Cheney as a national security advisor or as a secretary of defense.
That's just the darkest thing I can imagine. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.